everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you're having a great Tuesday wherever you are in the world. My name is Sarah Fairclough, and I'm the Business Administrator for our Platform Solutions team here at SmartSimple. I'm joined today with Mark Bridger, our UI lead, who's going to be going through all of our exciting July 2021 upgrades, kind of going through all of them. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. We'd love to hear your questions, so please post them throughout when you think of them. We'll just be holding the Q&A session at the end, but love to hear from you, and Mark will try to answer all your questions. As well, this session is being recorded, so a copy of the recording will be sent to all of you who registered, and it will be shared on our SmartSimple Vimeo page. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Mark, and let's get this show on the road. Thanks, Mark.
Good morning to everybody, and hope you're having a good day. So today I'm going to walk through what you can expect in the July 2021 upgrade. I'm going to be using the wiki article here, wiki.smartsimple.com, upgrades, and this is where our wiki article is that tells you what's going on in this. I'm going to give it more depth to some of these items, and as she's mentioned, at the end, as we're going, just start typing your questions in the chat. I'm going to run through all the items so everyone gets a chance to hear them first, and then I'll just take as much time as needed to explain anything in further detail that anyone wants more information on. Your backup environments get upgraded 2 weeks prior to the release, and you can usually access that by going to just adding a BK at the end of your URL. Public release dates are here. There's a less than a 5-minute video right here that kind of goes over just the highest level things in case you want to share with someone who can't attend this, or you just want to share some of the big items that are in the upgrade. We're going to go a little more in depth on this. So I'm going to start off with the global system upgrades, and these are things that are going to happen. They're just going to happen when the upgrade goes live. It's automatic. It's for everybody. So the first thing, I'm going to show this on my demo instance, is the address fields. If I'm going to fill in my profile, for example, it can be a little bit laborious sometimes, and you can get typos in there. Sometimes people enter addresses that are not verified. So for the standard address fields after the upgrade, if I start typing in an address, for example, you can see that the Google results will come back and show you the verified addresses for that, for what you've typed. And then you can just select it, and it'll automatically populate the city, the state or province, the country, zip or postal code, wherever your location is. So again, it's just a time-saving thing to help people enter more verified addresses in. Now, this is going to be on the user pages, on the organization pages. And if I sign out and let's say I register as a new user, for example, same thing here on the sign-up pages. So if I just start typing in an address, I can say, okay, oh, there's the address, and you can see it automatically populates. So again, just saving people time and helping to verify that the addresses they put in are good and right. The next thing I want to show you, just log in again. Next thing I want to show you is related to portals. So specifically, there's links at the top. So if I go into, I'm going to go into users, I'm going to go into portals, and I'm just going to go into my common portal. Right here, I can see I have a link. And if I preview this, this is a link to a page. So here's my page. And I also have a second link here to another page that doesn't appear up here. Okay, so now in this upgrade, what we've done is we've added a new setting here, and I'm going to show you. So if I want to have a page in a portal, but I don't want it to show up here, I can now just toggle off this display as header link. So it's a brand new setting here. If I toggle it off, it won't display in here, but I can still navigate to it via a shortcut. So that's kind of what I was trying to show you if I preview again here. So here I've got a shortcut that goes to this page, and here I have a shortcut that goes to another page, which is hidden. So if this is what you want to do, you want to toggle that on here to show it here, or toggle it off if you don't want to show the links up here. Now I'm bringing this up because previously, a lot of instances may have been set up to deny access to people, and that would hide that role here. But in the future, we're going to make deny more restrictive. So deny will actually deny people. So if you have a shortcut that goes to a page that's set to deny, eventually that shortcut will give you an access denied message. So ideally, we want everyone to switch themselves over to using the new setting to hide the link if that's what you intend to really do, and only use deny for if you want to deny access to a specific page. And if you have any questions about that, you can always give support a call and they can help you walk through that. I believe they're reaching out to people who are affected by this anyway. But yeah, so the new setting here to use this to hide these links going forward. And I'll show you, it's really easy to do it actually. I'll just show you for any system administrators out there. So if I had set my permission to deny people, but I actually want people to go there, I just take that out and I can save it. And I can say, leave this display as header link off. And now the link won't show up here, but I can still navigate to it. Like I said, it won't happen automatically right after the upgrade, but eventually we're going to make deny more restrictive. So I just want to make sure I highlight that for everyone so no one's surprised. Going over to note entry mode. I don't know how many people are actually using this note entry mode, but we really gave it a bit of a facelift here. And the note entry mode is kind of a cool feature. So here I've got a multi-line text field. And if I say, type something into the field, and then I save it, what happens is put down here, I have a history or a log. Now I can't go back and edit the history or log, but it's just a way of keeping kind of a running notes or a running history of who said what and when they said it. And so we gave that a bit of a facelift so it looks a little nicer, but I can also pull that information into a list view. So for example, here, I come into a list view, you can see I can pull that information to list view. I can also export that information. So it's kind of a handy feature to have. But let me just show you how I set that up in case you've never used it. So if I come down here, I go into configuration mode, I'm going to click on this. You can see that it's just a text box, multiple lines. And then the setting to enable it is enable note entry mode. And then I have some options here around how I want the date to show up. But that's an easy way to make a field that's going to log all the information put into it in this kind of a format. And we did give it a facelift. Moving over to list views, which are actually one of my favorite tools in the system. Let's say I had a list of users. I'll go people. So let's say I have a list of users and maybe I wanted to change the status on a bunch of users. So if someone gave me a list and said, say, here's 5 users or 20 users, whatever, and I want you to quickly change the status on them or change some type of attributes on them. And I want to use the batch update to do it. Well, instead of searching them individually or using advanced search and having multiple rows here to call them, what I could do is something like this. I can say email, and then we have a new option called multiple. And so with multiple, I can have, with one row, I can ask for multiple things. So I can say, return anyone with the email this, and I put a semicolon in between, or this. I spelled it right. There we go. So now it returns those two, and then I can batch update those to do whatever I want. So just being able to use it all in one single condition, it's a new option we have. Now, it's an exact match. So again, I used email, I used exact match. It's not going to work for things like dates or predefined dropdowns, but if it's an exact match on things like email, that's a good option for you. Another thing we added in was something called SoundX. And this is kind of, it's for basically if you're doing an English language search on a specific term, and maybe you've got a typo in there, it's kind of a bit of a fuzzy search. So if I'd searched on strokes, then it's going to come back with all the records that have stroke in it, as well as maybe if I typed it wrong, like stroke-o or stroke-a, it'll come up. So that's another option that's new in these list views. And if you have questions, just throw them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. I just want to run through everything first so everyone has a chance to hear all the stuff. On the list view theme, so here I've got a list view and I've set this list view to export. When I export it, there's a couple of settings that weren't always evident to people. So here on the export, this is where I would enable export if I want to export a list view, and it would export it as a CSV. But we have these two settings here called update status after export and trigger workflow after export. So sometimes when people, maybe I'm exporting these and I'm going to use them in some other system or do something with them, and after I export, I want to automatically, to save time, I want to switch their status, or I want to run a workflow and have something happen to the ones after I've exported them. Well, sometimes people come in here and they export something and they didn't realize that was set up. So we've just added, when I export this, we've added an alert now. So if you've set up one of these options, it's going to tell people, so, oh, okay, I know that in the background, if I export this, something additional is going to happen. So that alert is just there to help everybody out. And that was added. So you may start seeing that alert now. If you're using e-signature, a vendor like Adobe Sign or DocuSign, sometimes maybe someone didn't respond or something's still sitting in the queue for a long time. Well, what we've added, if I go to Global Settings, Integrations, down here it says e-signature queue. So this is another new setting. I don't have anything in my e-signature queue, but if I did, it would show me the things that are pending. So there's a bunch of e-signatures waiting on someone, and maybe it's been waiting a long time. And so if I want to, I can actually remove that now. So there's a new option to see what's still pending and remove those if you so care to. So some minor updates. Let's take a look at smart cards. So smart cards are something that I like a lot, actually. It's kind of like a favorites list if you've never used it before. So I can take anything in the system and I use the star to put it into a smart card, and then I can share that smart card with other people. I use it for having a meeting. I want to discuss some tickets or discuss something. I can just go there and I can quickly dock this item, and then I can go through and look at these organizations, for example, and say, okay, we're going to talk to this organization this week, or I need you to action something with this record. And it's a nice, easy way of doing that. And as I was saying, you can share these items. So I can share it. And so I can share it with my other employees or specific people. I can say specifically, I want to share it with these people, or I can share it by role. So everyone with a specific role can get this. Now in this upgrade, what we've done is we've given you more control over sharing with roles. So previously I could set the roles that I can share with, but we couldn't set who could share with those roles. So let me show you how that's set up. I'm going to go into global settings, smart card. So this is where I would set my smart card. I can say, okay, in this UTA, I want to show these fields on the smart card. And if I come over here into sharing permissions, this is where I would pick up who I'm going to share with. So I can say, okay, I only want to share with employees, and who can share with employees? Maybe only other employees. And I can also deny. So these two settings down here, the allow share by role and deny share by role, those are new settings now. So you have more robust control over who can share by role, as opposed to just which roles can be shared with and who can be shared with. All right. Heading over to invitations. So here I am on level 1, which in my case is a grant. And I want to invite some people to contribute to this grant. So I can use the invitations here on the tab, or I could do it through a linked record list. And I can come in here and I can add new people. So you can see I've already added some people here. I add the people I want, I pick their names, I save it, and then I click invite. And they're going to be sent an email to come and collaborate on this application with me. Now, these fields, the prefix, first name, last name, email, those fields are now going to start carrying over. So if I invited someone and they accept, they're going to be sent to a sign-up page where they can enter other details. Well, after this upgrade, this information that you've entered here will automatically populate in that sign-up page for them. So that way it just saves them a bit of time. Again, if you've never seen how to set this up, I'm just going to show you real quick where invitations is configured. First off, there's a standard field if you want to show up in the left tab, but the rest of it is configured here, invitation templates. So I just went to the level 1 on the settings, went to invitation templates, and here's my applicant invitation. And so here you can see there's a sign up page that's attached. So if I invite someone who doesn't already exist in the system, once they accept, it's going to send them to the sign up page, which will now get those fields. So that's a handy thing to save people time. The next thing I want to show you is the system design summary. So a system design summary, and I'll show you where this is. So let's say I kind of want to take a snapshot of how my system is configured at this time, and I'm going to archive it in a Word document, just so I have that. What I do is I can go to Global Settings, System, and System Design Summary, and I can come down here, and if I want to, I can say, okay, this is my submission manager, and I can generate the summary. So it's going to bring up a Word document. And in that Word document, it's going to show me all the custom fields and how I've configured them. And I can keep that for my archival purposes. In this upgrade, we added a few more things in there that weren't there before. So specifically, your custom field role permissions, your status and your type permissions are now added to this as well. So it's just a little more robust after this upgrade. If you're using the third-party IRS verification as a transaction, so let's say before I cut checks for someone, I want to double check that this organization is still a verified charity and in good standing, I can come in here and go to transactions and then on types, and I could be using these IRS transactions to verify that. So in this upgrade, this is where this is all set up. In this upgrade, what we've done is we've added some more fields for this, specifically down here on the IRS service. So these are the field mappings. So when it's checking, it's which custom field does it check this value against? And so this is where you'd set that up. And these fields down here are all new, plus it's been a little bit better organized. So again, if you're using transactions, just note we've reorganized this page a little bit and added some more fields, specifically tax period, revenue amount, asset amount, and income amount in the third-party verification. So now over to communications. So in an upgrade or two ago, we added this communications tab under global settings. So on the communications tab, we've got system email templates. And what this really is a single place to go to figure out all the templates that are used to generate emails. So be it, maybe it's the, I forgot my password email, maybe it's a workflow email, maybe it's a reminder email. All these templates get set up and they can be set up in different areas of the system. So we introduced this area. So it was one place you can go to search for all those emails that are being sent out. So you can see those templates and adjust them quickly. So here we've got our list of all these emails. And what we've done this time is workflow emails are particularly can be particularly hard to find sometimes because you may have a lot of different workflows that send out different email templates. So we just enhanced this area a little more to give more information. So if I'm looking for a workflow email, for example, and I know the task or the workflow ID, I can just put that in now and I can jump right to that specific one. And then if I click this, I can see that email, I can edit it quickly. If I want to go see the whole task, I can click up here and I can see my whole task and some more information. And of course, if I want to, I can really go all the way back up to see the whole workflow and modify that. So it's just another way of getting to your workflow email templates with more information that you can search on to make it easier to find what you're looking for. Going back to talking about associating users with a specific application or a record. So when I come into a record here, I can always associate users via the contacts tab, or I can use a linked record list. So this is a custom field down here. This is a linked record list custom field, and I can do that inline in the application if I prefer to do that. Now, one of the things we added here is now the ability to add groups again. So if I want to add an individual here, I can say, sure, I add an individual, great. But if I wanted to, let's say I have a group of reviewers or something that I want to add in bulk here, then I can go to groups, for example, and I can select a role and I can submit, and boom, now I've added 3 users, and this is my reviewer group A or whatever, to this application, or my co-applicants, whatever I want to apply here, but I can do it in group. So that's a nice handy feature there. And if you haven't seen that before, I'll just show you real quick where that's set up. So I go to users and I go to user groups, and this is where I would set up my group of people that I want to associate with the record. And if I click on this button here, users, then I can define and add those people to that group and change that group around. So that's a cool way to add a bunch of people in bulk if you're doing the same type of user groups all the time for different things. The other thing we did here, and I'm going to focus on this linked record list a little more, is for the lookup. So traditionally, when we did a lookup, there was one contact lookup list view. But when I click on this list view, depending on what I'm trying to look up, sometimes I might want to see different information or filter it in different ways. So we've added the list view picker here in the lookups now. So if I didn't want to see it this way, I can change it and see it a different way. And I can maybe pull up other information or filter it with different things. If I'm looking for a reviewer as opposed to something else, I can have a different type of list view up here. So again, this is just a nice, helpful way to kind of pre-filter and show different information in your lookups. Now, I don't have any transactions set up here on the left menu, but we did add counts for transactions. And just to note that, so if this was the transactions, for example, I am able to see these 5 transactions. So the number count would be 5 here. So there could be more transactions associated with the record, but it's going to show the count of what you have access to, what you can see as a user will show up in the count of the transactions. Well, if we're talking about accessibility, we're always trying to make sure we keep the system even better for an accessible experience. One of the things we did in this upgrade was we changed the styling a little bit when you're using keyboard to navigate. So if I'm using assistive technology like a screen reader and I'm using the keyboard to navigate, when I tab through items now to jump from button to button or link to link, you'll see that dark buttons will now get a light highlight so you can see that focus a little better. And it also shows you what this actually is. So I can see that's the batch update. I can see that's the show chart view. I can see this is to create a new survey. So it's just a small change here, but it makes a big difference for people using accessible and assistive technology. If your buttons are light, you'll get a dark outline as well. That'll happen automatically. Let's head over to the portals. So I'm going to global settings users, and I'm going to look at portals. So now when I'm configuring a portal, I can use this interface, and this is fine. I can edit everything I need here, but personally, I prefer to use more of a WYSIWYG interface. So I'm going to preview this portal, and I'm going to, and now I can see what's in the portal. And if I click on this button right here, configuration, to configure the portal, it brings me into kind of a configuration mode. So if I wanted to, I can easily click on this and just edit this section. I don't have to find it in the list. I can see exactly which section I'm editing right away. It just makes it a little easier. So now, that's always been there, but what we changed was we added an edit button here. So if I wanted to, I can edit the full portal right from here. I don't have to be using that other screen. And we can also do things like create a new user menu link and a new portal page. So the user menu is this over here. I've put my face in right now. And these are considered main menu or pages. And I can add those right from here as well. So I don't have to do it through the other interface. I can do it more through this WYSIWYG looking interface. I want to show you the advanced data table. So when we talk about budgets, people often enter budgets, and they usually do it one of 2 ways, either using the advanced data table or the Excel parser. Excel parser would take the data and then put it in once it parses it where you want it. This is the other methodology where it's more of an advanced data table. So I click a button here, I would enter my information in here, I save it, and then it populates down in this display text and variable. So what we did here in this upgrade, and it should have no effect on most people. It's more, again, we just want to make sure everything's semantically correct. We've added the header tags for the H1s and the H2s. So if I, for example, if I inspect this, you'll see that this is now an H2 class. And that's just so, for assistive technologies, they're going to see this thing. But while I'm here, I just want to highlight so you can see this is the revenue title is here. If I go into this field, because not a lot of people have probably configured these or have seen these. If I go into this field and I go into the section builder and I go to revenues. So that title, that comes from right here. So if I set up the section title here and I just type it, it automatically gets formatted as an H2. And same thing if I want to add instructions, it automatically gets put in there. So you can just put that information in there. And if you're wondering how I did the H1, it's also in the template, and the templates can be found. There's quite a good article actually. Advanced data table, yeah. So if I look at the advanced data table, we do have quite an extensive article about styling it, which contains CSS and some HTML in there. So if you ever want to find that, it's all in there if you need any help, or you give support a call to help us with that. So anyway, just highlighting it should be no visual change for anybody, but we are changing the semantic structure a little bit there to make sure those are headings for easier navigation. Let's start over to email. So again, back to email templates. So look at the templates. So one of the things that we did also in this upgrade is we made sure that all email templates are now getting the created by, excuse me, getting the created by, the created date, the last updated, and the last updated date. So you really have more context about who made that email template, who last modified it. Now, because we weren't collecting the created date before, it'll show up on all their new emails, or if you save an email, the other things will populate if they're not already populating. But it just gives you more context again over who's creating these email templates and who's modifying them. Speaking about more information, if I go to Autoloader, so Autoloader is where I'm going to bring in a bunch of information to the system. We've added a whole bunch of new settings in here for greater context. Again, you get the schedule, the workflows, reports, and sequential loader, just giving you a lot more context around, what's going on with this thing, how is it being set up, and how's it running. And lastly, look at the list views again, one more time. So in my UTA here, my level 1 is a grant, and my level 2 is an activity, and my level 3 is a sub-activity. So if I go to a sub-activity, and I look at this list view, and I go to columns. So normally this is where I would add data from my level 3 onto the list view. But if I want to, I can add information from the level 2 and bring that onto my level 3 list view. And in this upgrade, we also allow, you can now grab things from the level 1 itself. So I can get, say, the application name and bring that down onto my level 3, or other information related to the level 1, and bring that down. So that's really helpful for your level 3 list views. That's all of the things that are going to happen automatically. So now I'm going to go to more of the stuff that is, it was opt-in. So these are optional on-demand things that you can turn on. We did enhance the shopping cart. If you haven't seen it before, basically you can, for example, I could search for an organization, maybe by location or on a map. I can pick it, I can donate, I can put an amount of money in, and then I can go through my credit card or withdraw from my payroll or something like that. In this upgrade, we enhanced it further to have more criteria around to better support matching gifts. I'm not going to talk too much about that at all. I'm going to leave that for the product team, but we did make a bunch of enhancements to the shopping cart to support that. The next thing, and I think this is really cool actually, is let me show you first, give you some more context. So let's say you have a whole lot of information, like thousands of records that are kind of just to your organization. So maybe it's like your inventory codes, or you've got some type of code directory, or sort of geographic lookup where it's like based on your location, we're going to associate something somehow. So you have these big long lists, right? Like, and my example here is maybe I want people to pick a specific course from a university. So I could have thousands of universities here, and I say, okay, I pick a university, and then each university could offer different sets of courses, right? And so I pick, okay, I want this one at that university. Now, if I was going to set this up in a predefined dropdown as I did, I would have to enter all those predefined options in here, which is a bit laborious and could be problematic, especially if it's changing a lot and there's a lot of information. So instead of doing it this way, what we added was a new option, and I'll show you that, called under global settings. It's called custom lookup options. So here what I can do is I can go ahead and I can import a CSV with all those options the way I want it. And once I get it set up here, and mine's small records, so I'll just show you it. And basically, here's my institution. So I have my list of all my institutions, and I have my list of all my courses. And once I've done that, then when I come in to my record, excuse me, I'll show you my record again. Once I've put that custom list in there, and once I put that custom list in, and I look at this here, how I've set this up, I can say on my select one dropdown list to enable dynamic content, and I can say I want to use the custom lookup option. So now I'm going to grab from that table instead of grabbing from this field. And of course, I just pick up which one I want to use, and I pick up which column I want to show. And once I've done that, then it'll populate this predefined dropdown list based on that other data I've imported. And the beauty of that is then I can also just import another one CSV every time it updates. Now, as you saw here, based on my first parent field, I populated the second list. So the way I did that, I'll just show you real quick. The way I did that is, again, I picked my parent field. I said enable dynamic content and use custom lookup options. And then I picked the lookup name. And again, I picked which column do I want to expose in that list. And that's how I did this. Now there's a full, on the wiki, there's a link to a full article that explains it in more depth, but that's kind of an overview of pulling in data from a custom into a custom lookup. So I'm kind of excited about that one. All right, so let's talk about some minor updates. So when we're talking about workflow emails, sometimes you can generate a lot of workflow emails and they happen in the background. Now we added a new option here. And I'm going to go to global settings. I'm going to show you this. So under communications. So you can see here, this is brand new. It's called workflow email queue. So let's say I've got a workflow and it's going to email all my contacts, with something, and it's going to run at a certain time. Well, what I can do is kind of like a fail-safe mechanism is I can say, you know what, if any emails coming out of the system, any workflow emails that come out of the system and email more than like 300 or let's say 500 people, I want to be notified of that before it goes out. So I can set this up this way. And then what happens, and if I don't put anything here, it's going to email all the administrators. But the way I've set this up now, so if there's more than 500 emails that are going to go out in a workflow, it's going to send an email off to me. All right. And then what I have to do is I have to come in here and go to the message queue. And we've got this tab called on hold. And so if that had happened, I would see all those emails here. And I can look at them and go, yeah, okay, this is legit. I want it to go out. And I'd have a button here where I can release them. So again, it's a fail-safe. So if you want to, you can have it set up so that your workflow emails don't automatically all send out. And you can have that kind of manual check for them. So that's a new option under global settings, communications. There's some new options there. Let's talk about annotation mode. So if you've never used annotation mode before, let's say I applied for something and someone reviewed it and they want me to maybe give them more clarification on something, or they want me to change something, then I can throw people into annotation mode automatically. So right here, I've got a record and I've already set it to go into annotation mode. And so when I come into this record, right away, I can see I'm in annotation mode and I can see there's an annotation here. And if I click that, I can see someone's asked me to revise something. Now I can reply to them or I can change it. But I can also, for example, click here and add my own messages and things like that. And I can communicate back and forth through this annotation mode. I can also turn the annotation mode on or off. Now, traditionally, when you came in here, you'd have to turn on the annotation mode by clicking this button, which may not be as intuitive. So if you want, we can throw people directly into annotation mode. And let me show you how I set that up. So if I go into the submission manager, I go into configuration, I'm going to go into the grant, which is my level 1 status. And you can apply this to anyone. I just made my own status for when things are thrown into annotation mode. But if you look at permissions and availability for this, you can see here's the setting. So based on a system role, I can put specific roles into annotation mode when they look at it in the status, or based on an association role, I can do the same thing. So, I'm a reviewer on this, or I'm an applicant on this. When I get to the status, I want to automatically open in annotation mode. All right. Looking back at portals, 2 new things that I'm quite happy about. Let's go look at this guy for a second here. So again, I'm in my preview mode of portals. I'm going to open up one of our newer templates just to show you. So here, if you look at this list view here, you'll notice that in this one, I've got the type and status icon. So for example, this is an arts and culture application. It's in draft, so it's blue with the paintbrush. Fair enough, right? So this is my type and status icon here. But you'll notice in this list view, I don't have it. So I'll show you how I did that. So if I jump to this list view, you can see there's a new button here, hide the type icon. So if you want to hide type icon from any list view, you can just turn that on and it hides that status and type icon. And it's especially helpful when you have smaller list views showing up in smaller areas. much like this one. The other thing we did is sometimes I might just want an overview. So for example, this is just kind of an overview when someone comes in, maybe it's their home page, and maybe I don't want to show all the records at once. So I can do that now. So here, even though I've got more records than show up, I've restricted it to, I believe, 7. And then I've got this show more link. And if I click the show more link, then I get to see, oh, here's all the records. So if you just want an overview of like the most important records, for example, I'll show you how we did that. So if I click on this section, now this is a Arcadia section, portal section of the type list view. But if I come down here, you can see it, I now have a record limit. So by entering whatever value, number value you put in there, that's going to restrict it to however many number you put. So if I only want 7 or I want 5 to show up, I can do that, and then you get to show more to see the rest. And that's nice if maybe if I want to keep a whole bunch of information above the fold on a normal desktop size, or I just want to show a little overview. Again, that setting may be advantageous to you. With charts, when we introduced the chart field, well, probably a year or so back, where on a record I can show charts. So for example, come down here, I think I have a chart on this one. So here's a chart, for example, using the chart field. All right, so here's a bar chart. In this upgrade, we've added, you can see the type is bar. In this upgrade, we've also added the ability to have a line chart. So bar, horizontal bar, but now line is added. So if you wanted to have a line chart, you can do that as well. I didn't set one up, but it's a new option there. The thing to note about the line charts is you can't drill into them, much like you can these charts. So just to be aware of that. Cool. Again, if I'm on level 2. So for those of you who don't know, there's a thing called a custom batch update button. When you're on list views, for example, there's the normal batch update button here, which allows me to do all sorts of stuff as administrator. But then we have the ability to create a custom batch update. And what I want to show, I'll show you how that's set up. So this is more of a batch update button that does only like one specific thing that you can give to your non-system admin users, right? So let's say I want maybe a program manager or something to be able to just batch update only the status from one status to another, for example. So I can come in here on a list view and I can set that up. And so for example, this batch update button I set up, it switches everything that I want to draft. That's all it does. And so I can expose that to other people so they can move a whole bunch of things back to draft or back to wherever using the batch update. The reason why I bring this up is because on the level 2, we've allowed you to now add and remove UTA roles, provider roles in batch. So I can move a whole bunch of people from one role to another role on level 2 if I've got a consumer provider relationship. So that's new. And you could do that through a batch update button as well. So that's a new thing that's, if you're using consumer provider, it'd be very helpful for you. Now, going back in to here. So one of the things that we did, again, a couple of upgrades ago, is we added this kind of countdown timer. So it's kind of a visual way to see, hey, this call is closing, you need to act soon. But in this upgrade, what we did is we gave you some more options around this. So I'll show you what you can do now. So instead of the default one, which was here, I have 4 different layouts to pick from, and optionally I can choose the colors. So again, I can just make this a little more vibrant, make it stand out a little more, make it a little nicer. And the way this field works, if you've never used it before, it's called the display countdown timer. And what you do is you pick, when do you want the timer to come on, what field you're going to look at for the date, so it knows when the timer should come on, the date and time, and then you can specify your message. So the pre-countdown message, the message when you should see the counter, and the message for after it's all done. So that's a nice way of just notifying people that, hey, your call is closing, and be aware. So if I look back here, again, if you're using Adobe Sign, then we've added the ability to include this audit report. So it gets tacked on at the end of the PDF. So if you're doing the signatures that way, you can now optionally add that on. That's under, let me show you where that is. Just to show you, so if you're using this, if I go to global settings, integrations, integration key management, and so I've set up an Adobe Sign here. This is the option right here, so include as an audit report. So that'll tack that audit report onto the PDFs where you've had the signatures put on. All right, let's go talk about the logo for a second. So here's, in the system, when you come into a system, for example, I define the logo and I define it here. Okay, so this is the logo that shows up here. It shows up on the login page. It shows up on the sign up page. It shows up throughout the system. Now, some organizations may have multiple logos. So maybe they have a logo for English, and then they have a logo for French or Spanish where it has different text in it. So if that's the case, what you can do now is under translation settings, we now have an option here where you can specify different logos. So if someone changes their language, you can just, this logo will change everywhere in the system for that person. So that's a nice, easier way of doing that than some of the other methodologies that we've been done in the past. Now we've added a new security setting for when you're downloading files. So here I've got, this is in the Smart folder. Smart folder is kind of like a Dropbox or something like that, where I can put whatever files I want and then access them from other areas of the system, or access them externally. If it's got this globe on it here, it says internet enabled. That means I can put files in here and then other people can download them even without logging in. So I've got this one right here, and here's the path to it. So if I go into an incognito window and I do this, you can see here's my picture. It opens up for me. All right. Now, if for security reasons you don't want those things to open up automatically in the browser, we can force them to download in the bottom corner of your browser, and I'll show you where you do that. So if I go to global settings, and it's under security, and there's a new toggle, let's search for it. There you go. Disable option to serve uploaded files. So again, if I toggle that on and I save, then I try to go that link. Next time, it won't open in the browser automatically. It won't execute that file. Instead, it's going to force me to download it, and then I can open it from there myself. So that's now an option for you if you care to use it. Okay, if you're using the autoloader, there is a change to the way the autoloader handles pound symbols. So let's go into one of these autoloaders. Okay, so we've added a new setting here called ignore comment lines denoted by a pound symbol. So sometimes people have put a pound symbol at the beginning of a line and they want to indicate that that's a comment, and so it should be ignored. After the upgrade, if you want pound symbols to be ignored, you have to toggle this on. Okay, so that again is in the autoloader under file layout. Otherwise, it's going to be treated as data. All right. And if you do put it on and you want this at the beginning, pound symbol at the beginning, you can still do that as long as you put quotes around your data. But the essential change here is that whether it's a pound, like number 1, 2, 3, it's going to be treated as data and not ignored unless you turn this on in the autoloader. Import wizards do not have this toggle as well, so all of it's going to be treated as data. Well, let's go look at data policies. All right, so all right, back on security again, on data policies. All right, so one of the things we added in this upgrade is support for invitations. So let's say I send an invitation to somebody to contribute on an application. If I click into here, you now have an option to say for invitations. So I got an invitation, you know, they declined it or they never responded. You know, I can, at that point, I can decide what I want to do with that data. So after a certain period of time, do I want to delete those values but keep the audit history? Do I want to delete those values, you know, and the audit history? You know, you can just choose how you want to handle that data if that application has either been declined or has not been actioned. So that's a new option there for your data policies, where you have the option to use invitations as the entity. All right, so let's go look at the beta preview. So in this upgrade, if you're, say, a state agency, for example, and you're applying for funding from grants.gov, and then you're going to go and give that funding out to other people, we have a new integration for grants.gov, which you can enable. And basically what happens here is you can now search all the applications on grants.gov, and you can take a look at those applications. I can go and visit it on grants.gov site itself. I can import this as a level 1. So if I want to, I can import that grant here, and I can map those fields that I want, and then I can kind of track all my activities around applying for that grant application, as well as maybe where all that money goes and how it was handled when I get it. So all that information we now pulled in here. It is a beta feature, so we're still continuing to work on it. And for example, I could go in through here. This is the actual grants.gov website, and I could apply for this through here. I'll just quickly show you how that's set up. So if I go into a UTA, this UTA, and under connectivity, yes, grants.gov is the new setting down here, where I would pick who has access to see this stuff. When I create that level 1 from an imported grant, what status to go into, and then here's where I would set up all my mapping, which custom fields get populated with what data. So you don't have to copy and paste that information in if you're a state agency. So that's a cool new beta feature that we're going to continue to work on. A few last things for admins. We did add a variable for the status group name. So for example, let's say I have 5 statuses that, when an application goes to review, it goes through like 5 or 6 statuses. Sometimes I would use a status group name so that the applicant only sees that this is in review, and they don't see all my different statuses that I have. So there's now a new variable. Let me bring this over. There's now a new variable here called status group name. So if you wanted to show what the applicant's seeing, you can show that wherever you want. Same with if you want it for a different language. The save and submit buttons. I think this is actually fun, so I'm going to show you it anyway. So sometimes when you're creating a save and submit button, sometimes you want to make multiple buttons, and sometimes they're very similar. So we just added the save as here, so you can quickly make a copy of it, change a few things, and then make another one. So that's just a speed thing, a convenience factor, but I think it's really quite nice. We'll finally put that in there. I'll show this as well. So if for some reason, back to portals and logos, if for some reason you wanted a logo for only a specific role-based portal, you do have options on there. We added a new option. So here you can see, so when I log in, if you want to show a different logo for some reason, you have different choices. So default's going to take the one that's been set for the whole system, and it shows up everywhere. But you could use a variable if you want to show a different logo for some, based on some type of logic. You can pull it from a smart folder or a configuration folder, or just display text. But the configuration folder is a new option here that wasn't available before. So if you want to show another logo from a configuration folder, you now have that option. All right, and lastly, when you're doing company association or people association, you can do that with your workflows. Let me just go here. So if I have a workflow that's going to do, let's see if I remember this, company association, there we go. Yeah, so you have a task type of company association, and there's also one of, I think it's people association right there. So yeah, I can choose company association or people association via workflow. So maybe I'm bringing something, some data in, and I want to change the associations automatically through my workflow. I can now, add and remove via the workflow associations that way, the company and the user. So that's a whole bunch of stuff. Listen, quite an exciting upgrade. I'm really glad you guys joined us for it. So what I'd like to do now is move to the question and answer period. And see what you have to say.
Thanks, Mark. That was awesome. And looks like we have quite a few great questions. So one of our users was just wondering more about the fuzzy search. So they're wondering if you could maybe provide a use case and just how to enable that.
Sure. The fuzzy search, it's really the SoundX. Here, let me show you. Let me show you what the SoundX. SoundX. So we talked about the SoundX here. There's a documentation guide right here to see more, but let me just show you. So automatically it comes on, and it's more for. Sorry, let me go into advanced search, and let's pick something. Let's try. Actually, I did user. I'll do user. I saw it there already. Advanced search, and I saw it when I was doing email, but SoundX. So here's the whole idea is it's just basically if I typed in, let's say, this, the way it would work is if maybe I only had this, it would come up in a record, or this, or some type of kind of misspelling or single words. That's really how it would come up. So kind of a use case would be like, I kind of know the words, or I mistyped a word, or things like that. It sounds like those kind of queries. But again, I kind of recommend if you want to learn more about it, you should probably look at the SoundX here, which explains what it actually does and how it does it, because it's not really quite my area of expertise, but we can also get support to help you walk through that one as well. But I do recommend taking a look at that SoundX article, which will talk about exactly how it's replacing the strings. It's kind of like replacing a letter here, a letter there, or something that sounds similar. So that's how that one works.
Can you use the postal code to search in the new addressed find functionality?
Let's see.
We're gonna find out.
I think you have to use the address field only. I don't think you can search by the postal code, but let me double check. I'm 99% sure. I think it only, but let's try. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So you have to start with an address. Once you do the address,
it kind of auto-populates.
Populate it all.
Okay.
All right.
So one of our team members, they really like the list view alert for triggering a workflow. Is there any way to add instructions in that list view above the data for quick reference?
Data for quick reference. Not sure I understand that question. So if I've got this list view and I want to export, and I'm using the trigger workflow after export and update status export, or either of these options, it'll give an alert, right? And the alert is based on what you've picked. So,
sorry, Mark, that was my question. Yeah, no, so just in terms of, for example, thinking about tasks that maybe a staff member might not do all the time, so they might forget the process behind it. And I've seen that a lot with turnover as well. The batch update button might get built and one person knows what it is, but maybe that subtlety didn't get passed on. So just leaving some very explicit instructions like below the icons, but above the data, to just say like, hey, you can batch all of these from one to the next by clicking the X icon.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like instructions here. Is that what I'm? Yeah. I'm not sure. I think there might be a way of putting instructions here, but I'm not sure. But it does sound like a good enhancement if there isn't. Let's chat after and see about putting it in, because I think that's a good idea. I could see lots of people would want instructions down here sometimes just to help people out.
Awesome. Thanks, Sharon. As well, is it possible to export the system design summary to Excel?
Right now, it's only Word, so it takes a little bit of time, but I can see if I can get one set. Design summary, because I didn't actually show you, but let me show you this. It's only Word right now, so I don't know. We could request it, but so here it is. Folder. So here's my design summary. So basically, it creates a Word document like this. where it shows you all the different things, who's got permission to what, your portals, your roles, your access, and it just kind of has it all in there. Now, I don't know if you can export it from here in Word, but directly from the system, no, it's only in Word right now. But you can see that it brings in all my settings and permissions around all that stuff.
For data policy automatic options, is the last login date of the user available?
I'm not sure because I'm not actually that familiar with the data policies. I think your better bet would be to ask maybe support or the product team about data policy questions, to be honest. I don't want to give you the wrong advice on this one.
Okay.
So I'm not sure is my, I'd have to get back to you or give support a call and we'll find the answer for you.
All good. And yeah, like Mark said, support is also always happy to hear from you too. And their email is support@smartsimple.com. So one of our questions, can I invite more than one person to complete an application? For example, sometimes I send the invitation to someone and that person tries to pass the invitation to another person to complete. So yeah, I guess just wondering can users invite more than one person to complete an application?
I don't see why not. You could invite someone in even a co-applicant role and have them have permission. I'm not aware of any reason that would prevent you. So I assume so.
Using the system design feature, how does it work with different versions? I believe we might need some more context there, but
I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that one, or maybe give support a call. That's a good question. I don't know. That's a very good question. Again, maybe just give a support call after, and we'll get you an answer to that. I've never tested it with the versions, so I can't answer the question, unfortunately.
Can the countdown counter, can it be used for different call deadlines?
Sure. I mean, the way this works is you just pick any time date field that you want, and you can map it off it, and you just say, hey, I just tell it when you want to show up. So as long as you've got a date and time field that you're mapping it to, which is done. So I just picked this field, this date and time field here, but you could put it to any date and time field and have it show up.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be for applications, it could be for anything.
Okay, great. Another question, can the system design summaries be batched? For example, if we want to download all of the summaries.
Not right now, but that's another good enhancement. I don't see a reason why we couldn't do that. It may give you a really big document, but yeah, I mean, give us a call and we'll put that in as an enhancement, I think.
Great. Okay. Is there a way to indicate, is there a way to indicate watch list results on the organization shopping cart?
I'm not aware of that. Yeah, I'm not aware of that, or if that is even available. Again, unfortunately, I think you'd probably have to maybe talk to the product team or support about that one and see if we can set that up. I don't think it's available currently, but I don't want to misspeak on that one.
Okay. Can you automate export of system design summary? So like on a scheduled basic, like with report export options.
I would think that would be an enhancement. I'm not aware of a way of doing it now. Right now it's a manual process, but again, I don't see a reason why we couldn't automate that and maybe drop it in a smart folder or somewhere for you. Yeah, because it's a manual process now, but sure, I'm sure we could automate that.
So another question about the countdown counter. So can the countdown counter be used for different open calls? We're using the same application for different call deadlines. As I understood, it is only for one call.
I think as long as you have, you just map it to a different date field. As long as it's mapped to a date field, you should be able to set up multiples. I don't see a reason why you couldn't. So maybe give a support call and have them walk you through setting it up that way. But I don't see any reason why you couldn't, because I have two here. Now, mind you, I put it the same date, but I could pick two different date fields. It'd just be a matter of probably permissioning or something, or part of the configuration. So I don't see a problem with it, but again, maybe give support a call and they can help you set it up. Yeah,
like we said, support is always happy to hear from you all as well. So if there's something that's maybe like a new feature that you want to learn more about, I would definitely recommend giving them a call or emailing them. Great. So yeah, now it looks like I think we've answered all the questions, but like we were saying, please feel free to reach out to us if you do have any more questions or you think of anything after. We are always happy to hear from you. We will be sending out a recording of this session and it will be posted on our Vimeo. I always pronounce that wrong, on our Vimeo page later. Probably sometime later this week. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules just to spend a little bit of time with us learning about our upgrade. And yeah, thanks to Mark as well for explaining it all to us. We really appreciate it.
All right, great to see everybody.
Thanks everyone. Have a nice day.